Good morning. This is Muhammad Sulaiman, Assistant Professor of Commerce, working at MVS Government Degree College Autonomous, Mehboob Nagar. Today, let us learn about the Consumer Protection Act 1986. As all of us purchase many things every day for our daily use, for our domestic use, and for other uses, therefore, we transact with the traders, we transact with the sellers in the capacity of a consumer. We buy goods for our own, we buy goods and commodities and services for our family also. So in this situation, it is important for us to learn about the Consumer Protection Act 1986. So let us move on and see the objectives of the lesson. The objectives of the lesson are: first, we will be learning about the introduction to the topic, that is the Consumer Protection Act 1986, and we'll be seeing about the objectives of the Consumer Protection Act, and later on we'll be learning about the concept consumer, who is a consumer, and what all different categories of people are included in the topic called consumer. Then we will be learning about complaint, what is made by complaint, and how a complaint can be made. Then we will be learning about the concept consumer dispute. What is consumer dispute actually? Then we will be learning about a defect. Then we will be learning about deficiency. Then at last we will see who can file a complaint in case of any complaint, dispute, defect, or deficiency. So let us move on and see the introduction part of this. As all of us know, India is a very big country, and the consumers in India are normally poor, helpless, and disorganized. So, in many cases, this happens that a consumer who is deceived is poor and is not in a position to get some redressal in case of some fraud, in case of some unfair trade practice, or in case of some adultery that has been made by the trader while selling the goods. Therefore, the consumers in India are poor, helpless, and disorganized, and the market in India is generally called as sellers market, where sellers have their voice and sellers are organized, and sellers have associations, and sellers are intelligent, and it is very easy to dupe the innocent consumers. Consumers normally being innocent, the sellers normally will dupe the consumers. Therefore, there is a need there is a need that consumer shall be redressed, his grievance shall be properly attended, and there shall be some legislation which will protect the interest of the consumer. In some cases, it may happen that the consumer is neither knowledgeable and not in a position to be uh, well informed about the products and services that he is going to purchase. Then, in such a case, it is easy for the traders to dupe the innocent consumers. Therefore, an innocent consumer or a poor consumer is not in a position to approach a civil court also in case of some fraud or in case of some unfair trade practice. Therefore, there was a need felt to provide quick and speedy justice to the consumers, and the biggest direction in this has come from the government of India with the enactment of the Consumer Protection Act in the year 1986. The Consumer Protection Act 1986 was enacted in the year 1986, and the main objective of the Consumer Protection Act was to protect the interest of the consumers. Now let us move on and see what are the objectives of the Consumer Protection Act. So it is clearly understood that consumers in the society are poor, and problems like ignorance, illiteracy, poverty, and backwardness are common everywhere in every part of the country. Therefore, on the other hand, if we observe the trading community or the traders are well organized by forming the associations, and the consumers are still organized, though there may be some consumer voluntary associations, but they are not organized or so established as the traders association are. Therefore, there was a need to protect the consumers interest, and the enactment of the Consumer Protection Act 1986 was a great step in this direction. Now let us see the objectives of the Consumer Protection Act 1986. The objectives of Consumer Protection Act 1986 are: right to consumer education, right to safety, right to seek redressal, right to be heard, right to choose, and right to information. So all these six rights are the objectives of the Consumer Protection Act. The Act has recognized the following six rights of the consumers. So the first right is right to consumer education. So the right to consumer education is important, and it is very essential for the consumers. Information about the consumer products in the market that are available shall be provided through consumer education, and the knowledge regarding the products should be built properly. The knowledge should be given to the consumer before they make an investment decision. And the education that is provided to the consumers should be well circulated and well advertised through proper mode of communication, wherein they will be aware and they will make some informed decision with their knowledge and capability that they can understand. So according to this objective, according to this right, all the consumers are supposed to have knowledge about the products that are available in the market, and they shall know about the legal mechanism or the system which is necessary to seek a legal remedy in case if there is any consumer dispute. Then we have one more right called right to safety. Right to safety is one important right that a consumer has according to this Consumer Protection Act. Right to safety aims at safeguarding the consumers from uh, consuming the products that are hazardous to the life and property, or it aims at stopping of marketing of goods that are adulterated and are dangerous to the life and property of the consumer. For example, a food product that is adulterated may be dangerous to a consumer when he purchases it and consumes. Therefore, in order to ensure that the hazardous, dangerous, and adulterated products are not given to the consumers, this right is given. So, according to right to safety, the consumer has a right to be protected against the sale of or against the marketing of goods that are not safe and that are not safe to the life and property of the consumers. Therefore, this right will ensure that consumer is protected from all sorts of cheating that is made on the grounds of adulteration of food, etc. We have one more right that is called right to seek redressal. This right provides an opportunity to the consumer to seek redressal if he feels that he is deceived. So, according to this, he can seek redressal by lodging a complaint in a Consumer Protection Council, and he can have his grievance redressed. So, according to right to seek redressal, he can go against the exploitation that is made by the traders, and the loss that he has suffered can be recovered in the form of damages. Therefore, right to seek redressal is a great right, or it is a big relief to the consumers, which helps them in safeguarding themselves and seeking redressal in case of there is a any complaint or dispute between the seller and the consumer. Then there is one more right that is called a right to be heard. So when he lodges a complaint, the consumer shall be given an opportunity for properly being heard in the Consumer Protection Council. So without hearing, the Consumer Protection Council will not give its verdict. On receipt of a complaint from the Consumer Protection Council or the Consumer Forum or the Commission at a state and national level will serve a notice to the seller on whom the complaint is made, and the trader and the consumer will be both given an opportunity to present their case. So in this case, the consumer will get an opportunity to explain his case about how he has been deceived or how a dispute has arisen between the trader and the consumer. Therefore, right to be heard is one important right to the consumer that is given in the Consumer Protection Act. If there is no right to be heard, then the presentation of the case or the presentation of the that has been arised between the trader and the consumer will be difficult. And we have one more right, that is right to choose. Right to choose is an opportunity or a right given to the consumer to select the product or the good which he wants among the different alternatives that are available in the market. When a marketer is providing 10 types of products, the consumer is at liberty to choose any one of them. He can pick any good from the available list of products which he likes. This right will ensure the fair competition and price competitiveness among the traders, and the consumer will get benefit in choosing the right product that he wants. Therefore, a right to choose is an important right according to Consumer Protection Act. Then we have one more right, that is called a right to information. This is a very big advantage or very big right to the consumer which gives right to information. According to this right, the consumer is supposed to get the information about quality, quantity, purity, measurement, and standard of the product which is offered in the market. So, according to this right, the consumer can demand some information from a trader regarding the product that he is going to purchase. The right to obtain information, according to right to information, is the consumer can take an intelligent decision by gathering information about various attributes of the product. When various attributes of the product are known, then the consumer can decide which one he shall take and which one he shall reject. If there is no information with the consumer, then information making process will be difficult. Therefore, it shall be responsibility of the producer to ensure that goods are provided at a reasonable demand at a reasonable price, and durability and utility of the products shall be informed to the consumer when there is a demand from the consumer. Therefore, the right to information is an important right that has been given in the Consumer Protection Act according to the Consumer Protection Act 1986. Now let us move on and see who is called a consumer. A consumer means any person who buys any goods for a consideration which has been paid or promised or partly paid and partly promised. So this is one way in which a consumer is defined. A lot of us may be having a confusion regarding the definition of the term consumer. Somebody may say consumer is a person who will pay the price, or somebody may say a consumer is a person who actually consumes the commodity or goods, and so on. But according to the Consumer Protection Act, the definition of consumer is consumer means any person who buys any goods for consideration. So there shall be payment of some consideration. If consideration is not paid, then the position of the consumer will become weak. He will not be called a consumer. Therefore, a consumer means any person who buys any goods for a consideration which has been paid or promised or partly paid and partly promised. It could be a payment system in installments also. A product which is purchased on installment basis may be paid for a continue or a consecutive 1 year, 12 months, or it could be 24 months also, but the consideration is paid. It is important to note that the consideration is paid in this case. Therefore, a consumer means any person who buys any goods for a consideration which has been paid or promised. And he includes any person who hires or avails of any service for a consideration which has been paid or promised or partly paid and partly promised. So the term consumer covers both things, that is the goods and the services. So goods are those goods which are purchased for daily life or for durable requirements. But on the other hand, it could be availment of services also, availment of a transport service from a cab owner, or availment of a transport service from a transport agency, or availment of any other services which a consumer needs will also come under this purview. And the consumer who uses the or who hires the services will be covered under the Consumer Protection Act 1996. Therefore, a consumer means any person who buys any goods for consideration or who hires or avails any services for consideration. The crux point here is payment of consideration shall be there, whether in full, in part, or in promised installment system. Therefore, the definition of the term consumer is wide and includes not only the person who buys any goods for consideration but also any user of such goods with the approval of the buyer. This is important here. Sometimes we may have a doubt regarding whether a family member who has used the commodity purchased by father is treated as consumer or not. Or sometimes we may have a doubt whether a friend who has used a commodity purchased by some other friend is a consumer or not. So in some cases it may happen that the warranty or the conditions or the durability or any other promise made by the trader or the seller may go wrong. It may not be up to the mark. Then in this case, the trader or the seller cannot deny that the person who has used the product is not the same to whom I have sold the good or commodity. Therefore, the term consumer has been defined in a very wide sense, and it includes not only the person who buys any goods for consideration but also any user of such goods with the approval of the buyer. For example, if I purchase a car, if I allow my friend to take a car on a ride to some other city, then he is also treated as a consumer because I have given permission for his ride. Therefore, with the approval of the buyer, if any other person uses the goods, then consumer is included, or the person is also included in the term called consumer. For example, when in a family, let us take example of a family. In a family, father purchases a toothpaste, and if a son or daughter is using the toothpaste, then it is assumed that the son or daughter using the toothpaste is also a consumer because it is purchased by his father and his father has approved for the use of the toothpaste. Therefore, the definition of the term consumer is not restricted to only that person who has paid the price, but also it includes such persons who use the goods or services with the approval of the buyer. Now let us move on and see what is actually a complaint. When we talk about complaint, a simple statement can be given regarding one complaint. Complaint is a starting point in consumer dispute. To say that there is consumer dispute, there shall be a complaint. The complaint is a statement of alleging that there is a dispute between the buyer and the seller, or there is a dispute between the consumer and the trader. Dispute could be on any ground, dispute could be on any other grounds, and the dispute can be regarding anything that is related to the commodity that is sold or the commodity that is offered to him for a price. Therefore, A complaint is a statement alleging that there is a dispute regarding unfair trade practice of the trader. So this is one of the basis or grounds on which a complaint is made. Unfair trade practice of the trader. Unfair trade practice of the trader could be anything, either giving faulty products, either giving products at a higher rate, or giving a products which are expired, or giving a products which are not up to the mark, or selling the products which are not a standard one but a substandard one, or selling products or food that are adulterated, etc. So unfair trade practice is a broad term which includes many things. Therefore, a complaint can be made against the trader in case of unfair trade practice adopted by him, and a complaint can be made by a consumer in case of defective goods also. When the quality of the goods sold is assured, and when the quality terms and conditions of the goods are explained properly, but on later on upon the purchase, if it is detected later on that the quality of the goods is not okay and there is some defect in the goods, then in such a case the goods are called defective goods, and a consumer can file a complaint against the trader on the grounds that the goods provided to him are defective. So in such a case, he has to mention what is the actual statement given by the trader, or what are the promises that are made by the manufacturer and the trader, and what is not found according to the promise. If there is a difference between what is promised and what is delivered, then only there is complaint. Otherwise, there is no complaint. So, if what is delivered is different and what is provided is different, then there is a complaint. So, defective goods will be goods which are not up to the mark, and there is some issue regarding the performance, there is some issue regarding the quality, there is some performance regarding the built quality, etc. Therefore, the defect which is available or which is present in the product shall also be mentioned, and the defect can be noted in the complaint that has been made according to the Consumer Protection Act. And there can be one more ground on which a complaint can be made, that is deficiency in services. This may happen when we hire some service from a service provider. He may take some advantage and he may provide some deficiency, or he may provide some deficient service. For example, if I book a taxi with air conditioning service, I felt that it is since it is a summer season, let us go in a AC car. So if after boarding the car and during the transit, if I observe that the AC is not working properly, then I can say that it is deficiency in service. Because when I booked a air conditioned car, I will be paying the price according to the air conditioned fare. So when I pay air conditioned fare, then I should get air conditioned service. If I don't get air conditioned service from the taxi owner or from the travel agency, then I will be unhappy because of deficiency in the services provided by the vendor. Then what I can do is I can file a complaint in the consumer forum regarding the deficiency of services provided by the vendor. Therefore, when I hire something, when I hire some service, then I expect that all the services shall be given properly. During the provisioning of services, if I observe that there is some deficiency in the service and what is promised is not given or what is promised is not provided, then there is a complaint. As I explained earlier itself, if there is a difference between what is promised and what is delivered, then there is complaint. Otherwise, there is no complaint. Therefore, in this case, if I feel that AC is not working or AC is not proper, then I can file a complaint against the taxi service provider regarding the deficiency in service of providing air conditioned service. Then we have one more ground on which the complaint can be made, that is charging of excess price. So this is normally observed in frequent situations where the traders or the sellers charge excess price by giving some other reason. They may say that the product is not available and there is shortage of the product. I am myself purchasing the product at higher rate. Therefore, you pay 2 rupees more on each commodity or 5 rupees more on each item. Then this type of unfair trade practice may be adopted by a trader. Therefore, charging of excess price is also a reason for which a complaint can be made by a consumer. So many times it happens that people pay more price than the MRP. So the maximum retail price is the price which is decided by the government or the government agencies, which can be charged from a consumer. That is the top ceiling limit. Maximum retail price MRP is the top ceiling limit which can be charged from a consumer. If MRP of a product is 20 rupees, then the trader shall not charge even a single paisa more than 20 rupees. 20 rupees only shall be charged from the consumer. Therefore, if someone is charging more than 20 rupees, then it is called charging of excess price. And this can become a ground for the purpose of making a complaint or filing a complaint against the trader in a consumer protection forum. Then we have one more ground on which a complaint can be made, that is offering of goods and services that are hazardous to life and safety. So every good that is sold in the market is not safe to life and safety. Some goods are not recommendable for children, and some goods are not recommendable for sensitive health persons. Sometimes it may happen that the goods that are sold or that are offered to consumers may be hazardous to life, which consumers do not know. In an ignorant situation, the consumers may bring the goods to their residence, and they may they may face some accidents and which will lead to great damage to their life and property. This may happen in case of different types of products that are hazardous to life and safety. Therefore, when such goods are sold, the seller should take proper precautions to ensure that he is selling the goods to the right person, or he shall take some necessary steps that he is not offering such goods that are hazardous to life and safety. Therefore, this is also one of the reasons on which a complaint can be made against a trader for adopting unfair trade practice. Therefore, a complaint is nothing but it is a statement alleging that there is a dispute between uh, the trader and the consumer on the grounds like unfair trade practice, like defective goods, like deficiency in services, like charging of excess price, like offering of goods and services that are hazardous to life, which are not permitted according to the Consumer Protection Act. Now, we discussed much about the complaint. Now, let us go on to consumer dispute. What is actually a consumer dispute? Consumer dispute is nothing but it is a dispute between a person against whom the complaint has been made and denies or disputes the allegations contained in the complaint. When some consumer files a complaint against a trader, he may outrightly deny, and he may say that no, no, what he is saying is wrong, and please listen to me, and what is written by that person is false. I have not done anything like that, and so on. He may say. Therefore, such a denial or dispute that has been made by a trader against the complaint made by a consumer is termed as consumer dispute. Therefore, it is a dispute between two persons. That is, the person against whom the complaint has been made and the person who has made the complaint. And when there is a consumer dispute, the consumer dispute redressal mechanism is followed by the consumer uh, redressal councils at three levels. That is, one at district level, that is called district forum, and one is state level, that is called state commission, and one at a national level, that is called a national commission. Therefore, all these three will redress the consumer dispute that is available that is present between the consumer and trader, and the consumer's dispute is settled. Now let us move on and see what are different terms like defect. Normally we understand the concept called defect. So according to the definition provided by the Consumer Protection Act, defect means any fault, imperfection, or shortcoming in the quality, quantity, purity, or standard which is required to be maintained by or under any law for the time being in force. So if someone says that this product is according to so and so standard, specification or certification, then it shall be. For example, if we take the example of gold, if the gold trader says that this gold is pure, then he shall have some purity standard. For example, the Board of Indian Standards will give certification to gold by giving a certification called BIS or 91.6 pure gold. If the trader is not maintaining that standard, it means there is a defect. Or it could be regarding the quality of the product. If the trader claims that the quality of the product is so and so, then the product offer should adhere to that quality. If the product is not adhering to that quality, then there is a defect. Or sometimes there may be a defect in quantity also. If 1 liter is mentioned or printed on a jar or packet or bottle of one particular liquid or oil, then it shall contain 1 liter as per the printed norms on the packing cover. Otherwise, it is treated as a defect. Therefore, all such things which are supposed to be maintained according to the law are supposed to be followed. If these things are not followed, then it will lead to defect. It could be due to the development of a fault, it could be due to imperfection or shortcoming in the quality quantity. For example, if a person purchases a color television, that is color TV, it should display all colors on the screen. If all colors are not displayed on the screen, if the picture is shown only in some colors but not in all colors, then the vision is called a blurred vision, or the vision is not called a perfect vision, it is called a faulty vision, since all colors are not shown on the screen. Therefore, such fault is treated as defect, and sometimes it may be imperfection or shortcoming also. So, when such imperfection or shortcomings develop in the product or quality, then these things are called defect in the particular good or quality. So, after learning the defect, let us move on and see what is deficiency. So, deficiency means any fault, imperfection, shortcoming, inadequacy in the quality, nature, and manner of performance which is required to be maintained by under any law for time being in force by a person in pursuance of the contract. Therefore, the term deficiency has two parts to it. Pertaining to that, services for which the standards are prescribed by law, and the services for which express warranties or guarantees are provided. Therefore, if one person promises that he will provide this type of service, then he shall provide this type of service. Otherwise, he shall not promise this. Any fault, imperfection, or deficiency or shortcoming will be leading the consumer in a unhappy situation, and he may be thinking of filing a complaint against him. Therefore, if deficiency in service is there, there may be a legal course of action. For example, a person promising to do catering service according to the demand put by the consumer, but on the day of doing service, if all the terms and conditions that have been agreed upon are not followed, though he has done some service, that service is rendered, or that service is counted as deficiency in service, or a shortcoming in the service is counted, and the consumer will be unhappy and he may think of lodging a complaint against him. Therefore, the deficiency in service is also a reason on which the consumer may move to the consumer protection councils. Now we have one important question: who can file a complaint? This is most important because many people will have a doubt whether a complaint can be filed by me, whether can complaint can be filed by any other person, or whether complaint can be filed by any voluntary association. Therefore, the answer to this question is, in simple terms, complaint can be filed by those who have some stake in the loss, or complaint can be filed by those people who are related parties. So now let us see, according to the Consumer Protection Act, a complaint can be filed by a consumer. This is already known to us. A consumer is a person who buys goods by paying a consideration. Consideration may be present, past, or future, or who hires some services by paying a consideration, maybe in full or installments. And when he feels that he has been cheated or deceived, or there is some defect in the product that he has purchased, he can file a complaint. Therefore, the first person who can file a complaint is consumer, and the person who is filing a complaint is called complainant. Complainant is a person who is actually filing the complaint. Then second one, apart from the consumer, any other person who is the authorized representative or who has used the product or goods with the approval or permission of the consumer can also file a complaint. As discussed earlier by us, a person who has used the product or a person who has used the commodity with the permission of the consumer can also file a complaint. Then we have one more type of persons who can file a complaint, that is any voluntary consumer association. Nowadays we have consumer associations also who play a big role in doing consumer education activities and all. So all such consumer associations are voluntary associations registered, and any voluntary consumer association can file a complaint in a consumer protection council regarding the unfair trade practice adopted by a trader. And sometimes it may happen that the central government or any state government may file a complaint against a trader on his unfair trade practice. So the complaint by the central government or state government can be filed by any of the officers of the central government or state government against a trader who is adopting some unfair trade practice. And sometimes it may happen that a trader cheats many persons or many consumers. So in such a case, what happens is, one or more consumers who have similar complaint, or one or more consumers who are belonging to one particular class, that is the class that has been cheated or the group that has been cheated, can also file a complaint in a group. Therefore, one or more consumers who have been deceived or who are facing problem or who are facing loss due to the unfair trade practices adopted by the traders can also file a complaint. Then we have one more type of persons who can file a complaint, that is legal heir or representative of a consumer in case of his death. So let us assume a person has purchased some goods which were hazardous to life, and on consumption of those goods he has died. So in such a case, a consumer, as he is a person who has been died, cannot file a complaint. In such a case, the legal heir or the family member or a representative of the consumer can file a complaint in the Consumer Protection Act. A representative can be any other person who is authorized by the family of the consumer. Normally, it may be a person who is an advocate. So, in such a case, a legal heir or a representative from a family of a consumer who has expired can also file a complaint. Therefore, it is important to understand that complaint can be filed by anyone who is a consumer or who has been authorized by a consumer and used that product, and any voluntary consumer association which are formed by consumers for the purpose of protection and safeguarding themselves against the unfair trade practices that are adopted by the traders. And sometimes it may be the central government or the state government, that is the officers uh, doing public service in the central government offices or the state government offices can also file a complaint. And sometimes it may happen that one or more consumers having same complaint can form a group, a particular class, and can file a complaint. And sometimes it may happen that the consumer is expired and the legal heir of the consumer can file a complaint. Now let us go into bit detail and see how broad the concept consumer is defined here. Therefore, the consumer covers many things, like the one who buys or agrees to buy the goods, and the one who uses or permits the other persons to use the product that he has purchased, and the one who obtains or who arranges the goods on lease or hire purchase. So in some cases it may happen that the person who is in need of goods may take the goods on lease or hire purchase also. So hire purchase is an agreement wherein the person uses the goods by uses the asset by paying the hire charges. So here we cannot deny him saying that you are just a hirer and you cannot claim the position of a consumer. The position of a consumer is allowed here in case of hire purchase also, and in case of some lease agreement also. If in case of some lease agreement, the person who obtains an asset or a good on lease is also given the position of a consumer, and he can file a complaint. If there is a complaint, if there is a dispute, then he can file a complaint. And the one who has obtained a product on deferred payment basis also. Sometimes it may happen that the person who has taken the good or who has taken the product may not have full amount to be paid for the product. Then in such a case there may be an arrangement between the consumer and the seller or the trader to take payments on deferred payment basis. Then in such a case, in deferred payment basis also, if consideration is received, the person taking that asset or the person taking that good is also treated as a consumer, and he can also file a complaint. And the term consumer does not receive one type of persons, that is the persons who purchase goods for the purpose of resale. So it is important point to be noted here that the person who avails or who purchases goods for commercial purpose is not a consumer. For example, if a retailer purchase some goods from a wholesaler for the purpose of selling those goods or those products again to consumers, then he is not called a consumer, because the intent here is for using the goods, is for not using the goods but for reselling the goods. Therefore, consumer includes all those activities which are undertaken except for commercial purposes. Thank you.